Hello and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey,
I am Dan.
and today we are looking forward to talking about Captain America: Brave New World. This is the first Marvel episode that we've done in quite a while. Are you excited, Dan?
Yeah, no, this was the first Marvel project I've watched in quite a while.
Deadpool and Wolverine, I think, was the last one that I fully engaged with.
And I don't even really count that yet. I mean, I know technically it's like the bridge, but this was so far from that. And I
This was,
liked it.
yeah, no, I thought that this was a very enjoyable movie. I mean, it doesn't hit the highs of Endgame, but I think some people think that every Marvel movie has to hit the highs of Endgame, and this is very much in line, I think, with some of the like first phase Marvel movies.
Oh, yes. I think based on the previews that were shown with this movie of Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, it's very in line with the direction they're going.
I want to talk about the future of it, kind of at the of like the MCU at the end, but I wanted to start by asking you. What were your thoughts going into this movie? I know we touched on this a little bit off the air, but I want to hear what you thought as you were going into the theater to sit down.
So I decided that I was going yesterday after work. There was a 4 o'clock showing. I got off work at 3 o'clock. We actually got out at 2:30, but
Ooh.
neither here nor there. It took me 40 minutes to get there. But it was the first time where I'm like, I don't know what I need to know going into a Marvel movie.
And I should
So,
say I normally am like opening weekend kind of person, but I saw it on February 24th, I think, and this came out that's 10 days after the release, and I think Dan saw it one day after me. I might be a
mhm.
day or two off, but you get the point. It's
But
been a
it's,
little while.
well, they released it on Valentine's Day, which
Questionable.
also just happened to be Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah, that was really a questionable release timing because I don't think there's anything else too crazy coming out. Like it's not like they're avoiding a Star Wars or Avatar or something.
No, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what else is playing right now in the movies.
Yeah. I I don't know, but I found myself again, I try to not engage with trailers as much these days. I don't like I think sometimes, especially as you get closer to the movie, they spoil things that they really have kept under wraps and they like do it to themselves. So I went into this movie being excited. I love Sam Wilson. I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier was a great show. I'm excited to see Sam Wilson as Captain America again. And I was also very excited about Harrison Ford too, as a Star
Yeah,
Wars fan.
no, and the premise of it's cool too because it really played into Civil War, which I thought was a good movie.
Uh-huh. And
Um,
I have a few go ahead.
and I was gonna say, as somebody who's on Team Iron Man for that,
I'm a team capper.
it's okay. The raft is meant for you.
Man. Ironic. I do want to say also before we get any further, this is going to be a spoiler review. So, if you haven't seen the movie, please set this video down and come back to us or podcast, whatever you're listening to. Come back to us after that. But we are going to spoil things. I did want to say, speaking of spoilers, though, I think it did the movie a disservice in using the Red Hulk so much in the marketing.
Yes and no. I feel like Red Hulk was a red herring the entire time. I think they
That
wanted
is
you
true.
because he was not the villain of that movie.
No, not at all. But I think like everyone, I mean, I say anyone who's going to see that movie probably knows that Thunderbolt Ross is the Red Hulk, but he's been in so many movies before. Like I would have enjoyed if it was a surprise to see him turn into the Red Hulk. And I
Well,
know it all was to steer us away from the leader, the hero, as he called himself,
yeah, I
which
was
who
gonna.
I thought was really great.
Yeah,
But
no, I think it was. If they didn't show the Red Hulk, I feel like it wouldn't have gotten as much hype behind it because it would have been what else were they going to show? The political aspect of it. And that really turns people off.
especially in today's climate. But I feel like I didn't leave the theater going like, "Oh my God, I got to go tell someone they need to see this because Harrison Ford just turned into Red Hulk." Like, I feel like that's the thing that you would have, if you didn't know about it, you would have left the theater and been like, "Oh my God, they did it." And I don't think everything needs to be that way. And again, we often talk about separating emotions tied to the time that you watch something at first to like if you watch it again a year or two down the road. But it just was something that I kind of thought like it would have been so cool to see it as a surprise.
Yeah, I understand that.
Anyway,
But
let's kind of go ahead. Did you have
I was
anything
gonna
else
say,
to?
I would have been okay with that. I'm fine with knowing it. If you've listened to any of our Star Wars stuff, I like the political grittiness, and I thought this was really good for that.
It was, and it didn't quite for me hit like the highs of, and not everything's a comparing game, but like it didn't quite hit the political intrigue of Winter Soldier for me. But I was very invested in what was happening, and the way that they connected to the original Hulk movie. This is pre Mark Ruffalo, but still MCU. I think it was the Edward Norton one. Have you seen that one?
I have not, but I know enough about it.
I was young enough to barely even be able to say that I saw it when I saw it, but they told you literally everything you needed to know in the first like the
Yeah.
newscasters. But I thought it was a great like they've been leaving some threads dangling from more recent projects, but this was truly like left for so long.
hmm
And I thought it was very very exciting to pick up on in a very unique way to do it in a Captain America movie.
Yes. And I think it's showing the new Captain America.
Let's lead off by talking about Sam Wilson, Captain America. What did you think of him in this movie?
Oh, I thought he was great. I like the aspect of Captain America being a normal person.
I completely
And there
agree.
was a scene with, again, spoiler, if you are still listening and haven't seen it, last chance, when Joaquin was in the hospital
Uh-huh.
after he got shot down, he kind of told Sam, like, it's, I'm glad it's you. You were the one I looked up to because you weren't a super soldier. You were Sam Wilson.
That was my favorite scene in the movie. After all the crazy action, that was like my favorite part because I really liked Joaquin Torres as a character. I know he was in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like this felt like a sidekick kind of situation, and I really like that.
hmm
But it's like
Yeah.
showing that connection and like in like validating the like Captain America, Sam Wilson, beyond like his insecurities, I think was really nice.
Right.
And like I tying that in, kind of one of the big surprises for me was having Bucky show up.
I say
And
we talked about it. Do we think there's gonna be cameos?
that it's a very logical one, but I don't know why I didn't think like he wouldn't be there. But that connection to him being like, I want I should have taken the serum and stuff, and Bucky saying like, no, that's not what this is about. I just think that that was such a strength of the movie, and again highlights why Sam Wilson's the right guy for this job.
Yes. It was, and that was a theme throughout the movie, especially in the beginning when they're doing the training scenes with Isaiah
Hmm.
of like, you don't need to be a super soldier to do it, to do any of this.
Hmm. And I thought that the way
But
that they used his like Captain America's action scenes were really cool because it was very different than Steve Rogers. It had the wings, obviously, but like the way they kind of weaved in the vibranium Wakandan technology aspect of it was also really cool in terms of like just the way that they choreographed the fights and stuff.
right. And it showed that Sam's not a super soldier and had to think.
Hmm.
He had to be, he couldn't just punch his way out of it. He kind of had to at least plan ahead a little bit and use his technology to his advantage.
Because the blows would hit him harder than they would hit a super soldier.
Right. I mean, we never heard Captain America talk about broken ribs.
No. Do you want to kind of transition this um, Captain America discussion into a Thunderbolt Ross discussion?
Go right ahead.
I was a little taken aback when Harrison Ford was reprising or taking over the role
hmm
of Thunderbolt Ross because it's like it's almost like so recognizable that it's just kind of looks like Harrison Ford. But I think he adopted it really well. They made the cute joke about the mustache, but I thought he played this character so well. I'm used to seeing him all miserable when he does interviews and people ask him about Star Wars, but this was so refreshing. He just seemed like he was having a great time.
Yeah. And it seemed he did a really good job in the sense that you really didn't know what he was doing throughout the entirety of the movie. It's do they want to work together? Do they not want to work together? And then there were points in the movie I'm like, yeah, no, I kind of side with Ross.
Hmm.
And that's a horrible, not a horrible thing to say, but when Sam's like, we need to form the Avengers, and Ross is like, no, like that's off the table. The super soldier just tried to shoot me.
Yeah. And I think he obviously, softens, but it He made a lot of reasonable points where I think sometimes in these movies it's not as gray in terms of who you should be siding with.
Right. And I think that was part goes back to the red herring discussion of I think everybody a lot of people went into this thinking that he was the villain.
Hmm.
And then the whole time, like you said, he's being reasonable, and you're like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, and like the gradual turn and the way that they handled like why he would be able to shift in the Red Hawk and how it was like a secret weapon kind of situation was very very intriguing as well. I want to take a second now and transition towards talking about.
Can
Oh,
we
go ahead.
can I say one more thing about Red Hulk itself?
Absolutely.
I really appreciated how they used their knowledge of the Bruce Banner Hulk to calm him down and get him back.
Uh-huh. It was very like you knew that Sam knew what to do. It was just a matter of getting him to like stand still for a
Yeah.
minute. I thought that the action, I guess we can kind of talk about that for a second too. Like the that all happening at the White House and then with the cherry blossoms, I thought it was very there were some green screen scenes in this movie that I thought were a little questionable. Like when Sam was talking to the Red Hawk, I thought that like Sam's background was a little crazy. But overall, like the setting and the way the White House was like getting destroyed, it was crazy. And I just like unique way for place for a Marvel fight to take place.
Yeah, and it's almost like they knew they'd have to CGI a lot of the fight scenes. So they looks like they did a lot of practical locations. There were no crazy scenes in the sense it's like we're in some bunker. It's like no, here we're in a field in Norfolk, Virginia, or we're in a prison.
Uh-huh.
Everything was you could do on a set,
Which I
a
thought,
true set for the most part.
yeah, and that connects, I think, to the past Captain America movies really well.
Hmm.
And I think the MCU has been going in this multiversal direction, which is really cool and exciting, and I'm excited to see it continue. But I think stepping back a little more and doing something that was more like the original movies was a nice change of pace.
Hmm.
I did though want to start to talk about kind of like the plot, and that'll lead us into our villains and some of the
Good
like
pun.
lead. That was cute. I didn't even mean to do that. Anyway, I want to start with the biggest. I knew it was in a trailer, but when I heard it in the movie theater, I still jumped out of my seat. Adamantium. Oh
Hmm.
my God! If you haven't listened to us, I am a ginormous X-Men fan, and I have long been waiting for the X-Men to join the MCU. And Fox was purchased by Disney a good while ago. We've seen Hugh Jackman Wolverine in the MCU and Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'm ready for the X-Men to a new iteration of the X-Men to come. And just hearing Harrison Ford say adamantium was crazy, but like the fact that it's in an MCU movie, it feels like we're really on the cusp of that.
Also, the way they tied in the Eternals.
Yeah,
Did you end up
I have
seeing the
not
Eternals?
seen it, but I knew that that's where it came from.
Yeah, no, it was funny because everybody was like, "Oh, what's the Eternals is kind of just there," and then it's like, "Oh, surprise!" Kind of a focal point.
The fight scene around that was crazy too.
Yeah.
We can talk about that when we get there, but the whole adamantium thing was really nifty. I thought the opening scene was really cool. I did.
Hmm.
I mean, I always loved Giancarlo Esposito, but I thought that his character did not have much to offer in this movie.
No, I mean he was a mercenary. That's kind of just what he was.
He kind of played Moff Gideon, but not as cool,
Yeah, Moff Gideon had the dark saber.
which is a lot less
He was a
cool.
he was a mix of Moff Gideon and Gus Fring in the sense of he had the kind of the ruthlessness of Gus
Uh,
Fring.
a little more PG, but yeah,
Yeah. They
it.
could have very easily made that a not PG-13 film.
And I think the character survived, so I hope we get to see him in the future,
I
and
think
that's
we will.
okay. I think it's more comic-ish to have them, excuse me, pop in and out, and they haven't been doing that as much lately.
I think we're definitely going to see him again because they made the whole point of like when I break out of prison.
I think that'll be cool, and I hope this kind of sets up like, a more grounded set. And Daredevil's coming out. Spider-Man's supposed to be a little more grounded the next one trilogy, but sets up a more grounded area in the MCU. We can kind of talk about the leader now. I feel like because that kind of gets to the whole plot of everything with setting up the adamantium, setting up Ross, you know, ultimately You heard them say how he got his powers. Like Bruce Banner's blood got on him,
Yeah.
and then he got gamma irradiated, and Thunderbolt Ross made it worse
Hmm.
so that he could do all his calculations for him. What did you think about the leader overall from his plot and his character?
I mean, made a lot of sense. And he's one of those comic book villains, almost like a James Bond style villain, where he's like, he told you exactly what he was going to do
Hmm.
in this very grandiose way. But I really liked it. I thought it was one of we don't see a lot of just straight up killing in the MCU. Like, I mean, of course we do. I mean, we see King T'Challa is assassinated,
Hmm.
um, but we don't often see just straight up offing people
Like,
on
yeah,
screen.
like point blank, unexpected. It's not during a fight.
Like, I can count 3 times where he just went up and
Shot someone.
yeah,
And there were some parts with him where I thought it was unclear. Like, why did he go to that guy's house? Like, why that specific guy's house? I wasn't quite sure. But other than
because
that, I go ahead.
he was an admiral
Uh,
having direct line
y-
to the carrier group.
that makes sense. You couldn't see me shrugging on our on the video call that we're on, but I really enjoyed his like the way that they like the manipulation with the lights and stuff. Like, I thought that was very clever and very
Hmm.
a very fun way. I think they must revealed it too soon. Like the first time you see the security footage and the lights going off. I wish that they left us with that. And like maybe you could have figured that out yourself at first. But I overall thought it was really interesting and a really espionage way to weave it in.
Yes. What did you think of? Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. No, no, no.
What did you think of the mind control plot?
I liked it. It was confusing at first because I was like, what the heck? I thought Isaiah was going rogue. But then as soon as you realize there was more to it, I liked it. I think like I said, I kind of wish that it had a little more like mystery to it. It was very linear from you find out about it to finding out exactly what it is. But I enjoyed it, the
Well,
concept of it.
I think that that's the point, though. That was the point of the leader. He wasn't trying to conceal himself.
It's true.
I think he made it very direct in the sense of like, it's not a secret who's doing it. You just can't stop me from doing it.
Hmm. Do you think that Thunderbolt Ross learned about it? Like, do you think he knew what was going on before he like officially figured out? I think so.
And I don't.
Well, he kept calling and asking if he was still in prison, and that's what makes me think like he had some I mean, he had some sort of intuition. He knew something was wrong,
Maybe I think he was just so paranoid
or that too. I mean, the
because
character does
because
eventually.
now it's the time where because they said that the plan was going to release him and he knew that he wasn't releasing him, so he's probably thinking, okay, he probably knew it was coming at some point. I just don't think he expected it then.
Yeah, because it did seem kind of like very fast in terms of like he was only inaugurated for what 5 months, or it was 5 months of him being the
Uh,
president.
100 days, yeah.
Cool.
That's a
Uh,
very common political timeline for a
yeah,
president.
and then I guess you wouldn't expect in his first 100 days this crazy plot.
I think I think he did though, to your point of did he expect it? I think he knew if something was going to go down, it was going to be in the defining era of his
Because he would,
presidency,
because
which
if
is
he was,
often the first 100 days.
yeah, I guess if he was going to pardon him, he probably would have done it
Yeah.
before then. Um, that kind of touches on the political plot. I did want to talk about like the relations with the other countries, and that kind of leads us into that cool battle in front of the Celestial. What did you think
Hmm.
of like the it actually being kind of a setup orchestrated by the leader? I thought it was nice because like usually the beginning, like the first opening of the Marvel movie is a cool action scene, and it's usually disconnected. I thought having that scene end up actually being part of the disconnected at first, but actually end up being part of the leader's like master plan was very cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. Just as an aside, it was nice to have a World War villain who was not Russia for once. I mean, can't really say too much about that, but
I thought it was.
it was
Go ahead. Go ahead.
they set it up in a way that it made a lot of sense.
Did you
And
did you think that the did you think it was political enough to delve into the like I thought it was fine, but I saw people on the internet complaining about like if you're going to make a political statement with a movie, just come out and say it. And I think the point of it was it doesn't matter who you are, we all need to work together. Like that's literally like practically one of Sam's lines.
yeah, I don't know what statement they were trying to make. I thought it was a pretty logical sense of escalation and de-escalation.
Hmm.
And yes, that's how it would react if your government comes out to be orchestrating a theft. It would make sense to send the Navy to go try and secure it.
Yeah. What did you
Now,
think of Go ahead, go ahead.
now the fight scene could have been a lot cooler, could have ended a lot sooner if they
You
really
thought it
wanted to
was
go
too
for it.
long?
No, I think they with the firepower that they had,
Ah, I see.
that could have been over a lot sooner.
I think it ended up working out very well for everyone. It could have, you're right, gone far worse.
Yeah.
Um, I think we kind of touched on all the basic stuff, at least very briefly. I want to talk about kind of like the ending and then the future. Is there anything
Yeah.
before we talk about that that you want to touch on?
No, I think we've hit all the high notes.
We moved
Also,
through
I
it.
loved Sam's connections
Yes.
just throughout the movie.
I think it showed like he's a very normal person superhero. And I think showing something that we all have is connections and showing how you can be a positive impact on someone and that
Mhm.
ultimately come back and like if you help someone, they help you when you need it kind of, but not in like a favor way, but in just like a being a kind person way. I
Like
thought
they're
that
willing to, yeah,
yes. And I thought that was such a strength of Sam and it felt very like relatable. Like that's what I like you should strive to make more relationships like that.
right. And also, last thing before we move to the final, what's next? But Sam and Joaquin's office was pretty sweet.
It was sweet. If
Like that
we,
frosted glass.
if we ever one day have a podcasting empire, that's what our office can look like.
Oh yeah, pool
I,
table and all.
yeah, maybe a giant superhero costume closet. But we talked about the hospital scene with Joaquin and Sam, and I just want to one more time point out like Sam's constantly looking up to Steve and Joaquin is looking up to Falcon. And I just think it's such a again another real world like feeling thing. Like imposter syndrome is very, very real. And I think like making Captain America feel that is it's just a very relatable thing to a character that I think is important to be relatable.
Hmm.
But in a different way than Steve Rogers, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I think we can kind of talk about where the pieces are set up at the end. Bucky's running for Congress. Thunderbolt Ross rescinded the presidency and is in the raft. Later's in the raft. Um, we got to see Thunderbolt Ross have a reunion with his daughter, which I thought was very nice and touching.
Betsy Ross.
Uh-huh. No,
Get a
Mark,
flag out of that.
what'd you think of not including the Hulk? Because it was practically like
I
Hulk
think it's fine.
Hulk 0.35 or something.
I think it's fine. I didn't miss him.
I agree. And I think like it would have been a very different movie if the Hulk was there.
Right, because we'd have to talk about Scar.
The
Just
whole that yes, and like he's not switching it like I think he's currently like permanently Hulk, right?
yeah.
And that would have made things a little bit weird in terms of like they're going to investigate this secret base in West Virginia and this is like the Hulk is there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I agree with you that that's probably for the best. I think this kind of sets up a nice like if Captain America is trying to assemble the Avengers, which he indicated, and maybe they're going to work with the president, it kind of sets up this like government Avengers alliance, which is kind of interesting.
Well, it goes back to Civil War of like the whole Sokovia Accords.
Hmm.
What would they be? And that was Sam's question in the beginning when they were in the Oval Office. Sam's like, what happens when we disagree?
Hmm.
'Cause, I mean, that was Steve's whole point that they're not a tool of any agency in government. But technically, Sam is. Sam is in the military, and
It
so
is
is
true.
Joaquin.
I think it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And before we talk about the future, I kind of want to ask you if Sam is assembling the Avengers, true to form Avengers, not the Young Avengers, which we know is kind of its own separate thing with some of the newer characters. Who do you think is going to be in this next iteration of the Avengers?
Who's left? Shuri,
Yeah,
probably if she wants it.
Black Panther, Shuri, like for sure. I think I could see
Um,
Ant-Man.
they referenced him enough. I think he'd be.
That was fun. I like that.
Um,
I could see Doctor Strange, but he's kind of off doing his own little thing right now.
we think maybe we get like an Iron Lad.
Well, that's connected to the Richards. So if you don't have any other ideas, we can pivot into like the
I'm trying to think.
post-credit scene.
I think we can hit one more. We can hit one more.
Hey, is
Some
this where we see Thor next? I don't think
maybe.
so.
No, I think he's still doing.
He's off with his Gore's daughter, who's
We could
actually
see.
Chris Hemsworth's daughter.
We could see Peter Quill. Now,
Yeah.
what would he do?
Star-Lord will return, it said.
Right, without a spaceship, he's
Get
kind of
him
useless.
some wings.
Yeah.
I think that sets up an interesting like, you know, concept of who will be.
Oh, Hulk, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I think that
She-Hulk, maybe.
maybe.
Daredevil.
Yeah,
No.
I'm very excited to watch Daredevil, but I think this can kind of pivot us then into what's next, and this will, the post-credit scene. I honestly was hoping for a little more, but essentially was the leader saying there are other universes and they're coming, teasing Secret Wars.
Yes.
And
And I
this,
think.
go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was gonna say it pairs pretty well with Thunderbolts.
Uh-huh. Thunderbolts.
Just based on the trailer, we see the villain that can turn people into shadows.
I think that, and then us getting Deadpool and Wolverine, getting Fantastic Four. I think obviously, if you know the story of Secret Wars from the comics, everything's going to come together. And I think people have been talking about how the MCU has felt so disjointed, and to a certain extent, it kind of has. But I think that's the point, that it's all going to kind of like from different places come together, and that's the point of the Secret Wars story, where Infinity War and Endgame was very much gradual build up to one thing, where this will be kind of like compressing it all into to just based on the
Mhm.
story, the way that story works.
Yeah. Oh, Spider-Man. That's another Avenger who's going to show up.
I don't know. They don't know who he is.
Mm, maybe. I saw the wording of it was weird, I thought.
The what like
There's
they
this thing
might know
on,
Spider-Man, but they don't know that it's Peter. Maybe I don't know.
we'll see.
Yeah. Um. I
Um,
am. Oh God. But overall, though, I am excited about the future of the MCU. I know people are kind of down. People are down about everything. You're never going to please
right.
everyone, but I just think this was a good. It might not have been the strongest effort into MCU, but I think like it was a very enjoyable movie to watch. I thought it made a good stride forward where I think we've been kind of treading water in terms of the larger story, and I think it gave us some really good heart and good action. So I overall really enjoyed it.
I have to disagree with you on some of the things you said there.
Go ahead.
You said not their best effort. I disagree. I think this is like Rogue One. It is getting you to where you need to go, whether you like it or not.
I I I mean, you can't compare this to like Deadpool and Wolverine.
Well, Deadpool, I still
Winter
don't consider Deadpool and
Soldier,
Wolverine.
but it is. And like Winter Soldier, like it wasn't quite up there for me in terms like if you told me I had to make a list of my top 5 MCU movies, this is not on it. But I still really enjoyed it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's 30.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I think if we were to tier list it out, like It wouldn't. It would probably be a B for me. We don't give scores here generally. I don't want to give a score. I really liked it, but Dan loves a
I
good.
think it was a I think it was very good at doing what it was intended to do. And to your point, it's not an Endgame. It's not an Infinity War. This is a setup movie,
As is the
and it's
case,
set up
we we
for
we
what you need.
always we always say the same thing, but somehow find a way to disagree.
I mean, you were pretty bashing it right there,
Not
must
bashing
admit.
it. I really liked it, but again, like
Not their best effort.
it's not the strongest MCU movie. I'm not gonna lie.
But that doesn't mean it's not their best effort. I'm sorry, we can't. Everything's not Endgame.
Not even that. I think some of the more like solo movies have a certain strength to them that I didn't think that this had. But again, I did enjoy this movie a lot.
That's I'd say that's a whole other discussion of why I think Marvel's weak.
Wow. All right. On that note, anything else to add about Captain America: Brave New World, Dan?
No, stay tuned for Thunderbolts is next
That it
in
is.
movie release, and then Fantastic Four.
Daredevil's next in terms of show. That's coming up very soon.
Yeah,
Early March, I think. But
yeah.
yeah,
Did you ever end up watching Echo?
no, I gotta watch. I'm
Me
behind
neither.
on Eternals, Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, and Echo.
You need for Daredevil, you need She-Hulk and Echo.
Yeah. Because I watched the
No,
Netflix Daredevil. I watched the Netflix Daredevil.
and that's fine. But you need She-Hulk, whether you want to watch it or not.
I have no opposition to She-Hulk. I just haven't watched She-Hulk because I know that I need to watch Shang-Chi to understand it. And I have no opposition to Shang-Chi. I just haven't watched it.
Shang-Chi's very good.
I've heard nothing but good things about it. Anyway, that's our thoughts on Captain America: Brave New World. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Hopefully, as much as Dan did, since apparently I'm a big hater, but whatever. Please let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear it from you, but please consider giving us a like, a subscription, a comment, or a review on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. Consider giving us a follow on Twitter or X at Blue Shadow Pod or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And also, the MCU is not weak. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.